Hello and welcome to my LinkedIn Live new program. It's only our second one. This is Let's Talk Leadership. I am Kristin Judge, the founder and CEO of the Cybercrime Support Network. And I am here with two incredible leaders. One happens to be on our board of directors because I stalked her until she said yes. and so I want to get right into having them introduce themselves. Ladies, Mary and Mansi, thank you for being here from the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. I was practicing it before I got on. Cyberjutsu.
Yes.
I got it. All right. Mary, introduce everybody. Introduce yourself to everybody.
So I'm Mary Galloway. I am the CEO and a founding board member for the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. I also work for Palo Alto as a customer success architect for the Cortex side of the house with them. And I teach for the University of Maryland Global Campus.
Yeah, so in your spare time, right? That's great.
In my spare time, right.
Yeah, on top of all that other stuff. Mansi, share with us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mansi Thakar. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Women's Society of Cyberjutsu, but my daytime jobs have mostly been around corporations. Currently, I'm with Aruba, an HPE company.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. So I want to know a little bit more, and I know people on the listening in and watching us want to know about Cyberjutsu and what does this women's society do? Because boy, do we need to support women in tech. So tell us all about it, Mary.
So our main focus is to help women, those who identify as women, enter, advance, and excel in cybersecurity. So we provide hands-on training. We provide a community for them to come and talk and network and get informal mentorship. We provide leadership opportunities for them to grow in their leadership skills. We have a girls program, so we tap into the middle and high school age girls as well to get them exposed to STEM-based topics and get them interested in a potential career in not necessarily cyber, but at least thinking about a STEM-based career. We do study groups, we have workshops, we have classes. We just launched Small Tribes, which is a mastermind mentorship program where 6 or 7 of us get together and we just talk about different issues that we're having. It's for business owners, and so we're getting ready to launch some more of those, which is really cool. Mansi, what else do we do that I forgot?
No, we do a lot. That's just, I think what sets WSC apart from the other nonprofits in the industry is that we provide the emphasis on technical skill set, right? There's so much of stigma on like, oh, if you're a woman or if you look in this way, then you can't be a hacker. Like, you think of hacker, you think of like someone in a hoodie and like, do. And now you look at Mary and myself and we're like, we don't do, we don't have to. So I think a lot of it is to break that stigma by providing technical skill sets, right? So it's not just doing the talk and being like, no, let's be expansive, but then actually how can we empower and uplift our skill sets? Yeah.
Well, I think that is a differentiator for you because you're not just providing community, you're getting to these younger people and then taking them through the whole process and then teaching them leadership to make sure that not only should you survive in this industry, but we want you to thrive and lead because then we can pull more in with us, right?
Yep. Exactly.
That's incredible. How many people do you have involved in the program or in the organization?
Let's see, the last time I checked, we've got a little over 3,000 members.
That's incredible.
We have a really, really active Slack community. People are putting in competitions. That's the other thing we do. I forgot about that. Cyber competitions. We're really big on that because we like to do the gaming side of things too. But people come in there, they drop events, they drop, hey, I need help with XYZ, and they get help. They need speakers, they need resources. It's really, really active.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about leadership because this is the Let's Talk Leadership LinkedIn Live program. It's not a podcast. It's not a show. It's a show. Let's call it the Let's Talk Leadership Show with Kristin Judge. How's that? So how do you define leadership? Mansi, start with you. What does leadership mean to you? Because you've got to really understand from your core what you're trying to teach others.
Yeah, I wish I had like a catchy phrase for this, right? But leadership, I think, is any time where you have an idea and a vision and you're willing to take ownership of it, right? So from my perspective, like before joining Cyberjutsu as a CEO, like I don't come from like a line of like leaders, right? Like or anything. I don't have that kind of leadership experience before this organization, right? And the reason why this organization works, and this is our leadership style, I want to even say is like, hey, if you have an idea and if you're having the guts and courage to take ownership of it, nowhere are you alone, right? It's not just like a one-person show. But if you have that, no, I want to strive on this, or I have passion for this, you're automatically a leader. And I know that that's how many of our chapter leaders are, right? One of them has just graduated grad school, like not even a single, actual industry experience, and yet she's leading a chapter in Dallas, or she's just leading another chapter. So
incredible.
I think it's more than just a title, right? So when we say, whether we say a COO, and I think that's just to kind of help accountability wise, right? But if you have an idea and if you run with it, you are a leader regardless of your title, right? If you have it, if you don't have it right now,
inspiring. I just got chills, and I love the idea that you said, I don't come from a string of leaders. Like it's not something that you have to be born into, or anybody. Pick up an idea. If you believe in it, take the lead on it, but you don't have to do it alone. That is really amazing. I hadn't ever thought about it that way. Mary, what's your amazing definition of leadership? Because you got to top that one.
I can't, because look, I was practicing in the shower earlier. I was like, yeah, so da 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 da. She took what I was gonna say. No, but so my mom was in the military, and she was a lead, and so she led the troops, and she led they're called airmen for the Air Force. But I think of leadership as helping those around you be successful and see themselves as being successful, right? It's not my job to boss you around and say you have to do this or else, right? I'm here to help you grow in your career, in your life, in whatever. And I also look at leadership as a form of mentorship, and it comes from both sides, right? Mansi and I have been working together for the last couple of years, and she keeps me on track, but I also help her, right? We're helping each other. We're bouncing ideas off of each other. And so leaders, you don't have to be in a position of high power to be a leader. You can lead your peers at, the very bottom, in the middle, at the top, wherever you are, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, and you just start off with that servant leadership idea. I know you were talking about, you've got all these different chapters too. Tell us how the organization is based nationally, and how people have ways that they can get involved and take on a leadership role and practice and test it out.
So we have chapters, California, Vegas, Dallas. We're getting ready to have one in Houston, Jacksonville, Atlanta, the DC, Northern Virginia area, and East Carolina. And what we tried to do at the very beginning was make sure that they had all the resources that they need to get that chapter off the ground. Like, we have playbooks and we have all these different things. So if they have a question, if they need help with something, they know where to go. And then in our Slack channel, we have a channel specific for chapter leadership team. So everybody that's on that team can go in there. And so now they have their own small community that they can talk to, bounce ideas off of. And so we wanted to be a real community vibe, because that's how you grow, right? You don't grow by yourself. You have to have that support. And those, the organization has done like a complete 360 in the last couple of years, with just the amount of volunteers that are coming in and helping and having ideas and like running with those ideas. And, I let Mansi do her thing, and she's like, hey, I have this idea. Okay, write it up. Let me know. And then it happens.
Yeah. Well, and we practice servant leadership here at CSN. And I think you sort of tapped into it, is a good servant leader. I'm the CEO, but I'm here to make sure that everybody in my organization has what they need to be successful. Not how are they answering to me? When I get on the phone with someone from my team, I say, what can I do for you? Not what have you produced for me lately? Because if they're not successful, I am not a good leader. So I've really found that servant leadership, that bottom up instead of top down, all about authoritarianism, is so much more effective, because everybody's voice really does count. I have to make the final decision sometimes, but why would I make them on my own? We're going to be so much smarter if I hear from all the great people around me, right? And that you're fostering that. That's so awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about, does leadership, it's a funny question, but does it have an expiration date? Like, do you get to a certain point? Okay, now I'm a leader, I'm good. and look at me being such a big leader.
Mansi, that's all you.
I think we were all shaking our heads like, no.
Yeah.
But I like that question because so often, or at least when we look at the corporations, right? So often we think of like, oh, this person is a director, a senior director. So automatically, yeah, if someone from a director goes up, then yes, they're now continuing to be leader. If they either step down to go back to an individual contributor, I've seen perceptions they change. Like they no longer look up that person as a leader just because it's so title oriented. Mm-hmm. I think that's where in the nonprofit space specifically, titles don't matter, right? And that's right. More emphasis on servant leadership because I don't control anyone's paycheck, right? Like no one's getting paid, right?
Right.
I'll still motivate and tap into what that other person wants. So yeah, so I think we all agree that there's no aspiration, but that's because true leadership doesn't rely on having a title.
Right.
Yeah, it's that ownership like you talked about before. But Mary, how do you continue? You're already a leader. How do you continue growing in your leadership too? Because, you can't just get to the level that you and I are. Okay, I'm a CEO of something. I'm good. So what do you do to make sure that you're always growing and learning?
Having the best people around. Honestly, I think some of the best leaders in any organization, it's because of the people that they have around them. Yeah. Right. My team is great. That circle is that tribe. That's like me and Mansi can have total disagreements on something and then cool off and come back and say, all right, how do we move forward? How do we grow from this? How do we tackle this issue? Right. And so I feel like having that team around me has been super helpful because I'm an individual contributor. Yeah. Before I jumped in this role, I was behind the scenes and just making stuff happen. And then training. You always have to continue to learn and continue to educate and continue to find ways to inspire and motivate your teams and the people that look up to you, right? Because you never know who's watching.
I always encourage people to look for leadership fellowships, and leadership things that they can apply for. I've done 3 in my life now, and they've all been life-changing. And, and when you meet people that are doing them, they've already done 1 or 2 before. I'm like, oh, this is the secret. These people got to this leadership level because they've done these leadership trainings. So take some time to invest in yourself, even if it's a community leadership program, a national one, international one. But I think that's really important.
Yeah, you got to continue. You have to. It's always going to be a learning process. You have to want to continue to learn. Once you get to that point, it's like, all right, cool. What's next? How do I improve these skills? How do I continue to, drive change and still impact people? And so that comes with learning and education.
Yeah. All right. So Women's Society of Cyberjutsu, how are you, let's talk a little bit more down in the weeds now. How are you really growing leaders? Give me some examples and how are you empowering the people in your programs?
Mansi?
Yeah, so we're doing, I love this question because yes, so one is how when we even onboard someone, so someone says, oh yeah, this organization sounds cool, let me see if I can volunteer, right? So our volunteer onboarding team, one of the first questions they asked was like, what do you aim to get out of this? Like, how can we help you? And we ask this before we look at opportunities, how the volunteer can help us, right? Because obviously,
right there, that's servant leadership on the get-go.
We keep that motivation and we keep aligned with that motivation throughout their journey as a volunteer in the organization, right? So whether they are starting off as like a workshop, they're like workshop assistant, or they're like leading different items or anything, or even going to the CEO, COO level, right? As long as we keep that tap on what's your current motivation, right? Like how can this organization help you? Yeah. Help us help you kind of thing. And then you'll see that the other person will immediately react with, wait, how can I be better for you? Like, what can I do for you? And it gives me chills because you don't have to then provide someone I want you to do X, Y, Z. Because one, what if that's not even the best decision there, options there? And I know between Mary and myself, we definitely have multiple discussions, but it's not just in the executive leadership team. You see the chapter leaders, so someone who's just helping with social media. And they were like, and someone just had an idea for like a webinar, and now they're leading those teams. They're like, wait, I want to make this more, because you see that, oh, that's where their passion is, and how you can connect someone's passion and what this organization can help them achieve. I want to say that's like the secret sauce. Like that's the success.
That's how you define success right there.
Yeah.
So you define success. So you see this woman who comes in who says, I just want to come to a webinar. Then she wants to maybe, be on a webinar as a speaker. And then she's like, hey, I want to lead a webinar. There you go. That's that success cycle, right? And I want to touch back too on what Mary said about, I used to think it was cliche that people say, oh, the best leaders surround themselves with really smart people that are smarter than them.
It's totally true, though.
Team, oh my goodness, I'm so humbled. I have a former FBI unit chief who is on our team who used to work with a joint counterterrorism task force. He has so much knowledge and experience that I will never have in this lifetime because I'm getting too old to try anyway. And when he sits down with me and says, you know what, from where you're going, the other day he taught me about process. And, as leaders, set the process and then let people go and do what they're doing. But if you let them know what the process is and focus on that, and they know that, and unless the process changes, they can feel confident in taking, because people keep coming to me, I'm sure you hear this all the time. Well, what's your vision? This is your baby. What do you want to, like, no, I don't want it to be my vision anymore. There's 25 of us. And well,
our vision.
Yeah. But how do you deal with that, Mary, from where you sit?
Lots of wine.
I can't wait we can do it in person. That's gonna be so nice.
Yeah, we're winemakers out here, but no, for real. I just let them have the floor, right? I'm not the smartest person. I'm at this level only because I've been in the organization for so long. I know how it runs, right? And I know what it takes to make it run. And my job is to show others how to do the same thing.
And you're willing to do it. Let's give yourself some credit there too. You're willing to put in the time, because it's not a glory position here.
It's really not. I'm not making millions of dollars, No, it's really just me wanting to help those that need help. Yeah. And we use that same mentality inside of the organization. So when somebody says, hey, what's your vision? Mansi used to ask me that all the time. I'm like, well, why don't we come up with this together? Like, what's the plan? What do we want to see the organization doing? And where do we want to see it going? Because it's not just me. It's her, it's our whole, board, it's the executive leadership team, it's the chapter leaders, it's the volunteers, it's the members. And it's like, what do you all want to see from this organization? And what's going to best help you get to where you're trying to get to?
Yeah. And also someone's got to own pieces of that, like Mansi said earlier. Mansi, if you could say to someone, let's say there's some people that are watching, men or women, doesn't matter. Anyone is watching and saying, I think I have this great idea. I want to start a nonprofit. So understanding the back end of what it takes to run a nonprofit, besides telling them, please don't do it. Just come join my nonprofit and we'll do it together.
Come join over here.
Yeah. I'm serious. I think people should. I heard the other day that 92,000 new nonprofits started in 2020. Yep. 92,000 competing with each other so Mansi, someone's looking to start their own nonprofit. They have a great idea. What kind of advice would you give them, or tell them what it looks like on the back end and what our days are like?
Yeah. So one, I would say go for it, right? Grow your nonprofit to be so great so that we can merge forces at like one time. So that's another thing, right? Because you got to think of someone everyone has ideas. Like, well, how many thoughts do we have in a day? It's like billions, trillions kind of thing. So you can imagine they'd be like, oh yeah, this is great. But if they have the passion, be like, you know what, I'm actually willing to do the paperwork, establish myself as a 501c3 nonprofit, and what that looks like. There are resources out there, right? Go for it. But make sure that you're not alone. Like that, get yourself. And that's how we do our chapters as well. We have many people who are interested in like, hey, let's create a chapter here and there. But then our main thing is like, bring 3 or 4 other people with you, have them join you for the ride, because it's supposed to be sustainable. If you like, when I create something, I want it to like live on for years, right? And so I don't want it to die. So that's my one thing is like, make sure you have your tribe to go through the process with you, if not, learn from a current nonprofit, right? That's the best part, is because nonprofits are so eager. We always need help, right? Whether it's to fundraise, whether it's like the programming, whatever it is, join one, learn how it is, right? And see how you can make it better.
Good idea. That's a great idea. Yeah. Get that inside experience too, of finding out what the difficulties and the pleasures could be.
Yeah, but so I don't see them as competition. I see as that's great. Like if there's plenty of space for everyone. And I know Mary's gonna be like, Mansi, stop talking. But I think I think grow, right? Make it so great so that we can come and join forces. Like, why not? And then you can only do that if you have people passionate enough on both levels, right? So that's how I would never want someone to like be part of WSC and be like, oh, I wish I had my own, but here I am joining this one. I wish I had my own, but here I am. No, then go to, and then watch Mary and myself and the others help you start that up too. Because I think like attracts like, right? So if you have a passion for something, people are going to be like, all right, let me help your passion become into reality. Like that's how WSC started, right?
That's right. Yeah, most nonprofits come from someone having a passion. Mary, what would you say to those out there, a few years before where we are now?
Don't do it. No.
Well, no, so, in some ways,
administrative
keep going on
perspective,
that.
If you want to do it, make sure you find some mentors in the space. I've got a few folks that I mentor that I provide insights to, because a lot of this stuff I had no idea. I've done so much research. Mansi recommended a course before I took on this role, and I took it and I was like, oh, we are doing some of this stuff, but there's a whole lot more that we don't do. And there's just so much to learn. There's lots of groups on Facebook that I'm a part of. Find your mentors. If you're really interested, come talk to me. I'll talk to you about it. I was there at the beginning when we started the 1023 and all that paperwork, and still having to do the charitable solicitations and the taxes and all of that stuff. Like, we can talk about all of it, because there's so many little things to keep your 501c status, and it costs money.
So the big elephant in the room is, people have the great idea, they get their tribe together, but you still have to bring in money.
Yep.
Even if you're all volunteers, there are costs to doing this.
Website costs, registration costs every single year. You don't pay taxes on most things, but you still have to pay someone to do your taxes.
Right.
And
if you want to get bigger money, you have to get an audit,
which costs money. And you definitely need funds. And there's definitely a lot of funds out there. There's grants, there's foundations, there's sponsorship opportunities. You just have to go after the money and get it. And you have to sell what you're trying to do to someone and get them to invest and buy into that vision, that mission. Got to have a story.
I was watching a show with Cindy Gula the other day, and she said, know your why.
Yeah.
And why the heck do you want to do this? And then I would add, see who else is doing it first, and see if you can't just necessarily, if it's different than yours, that's fine. But if it's similar enough, maybe you could have a branch of their nonprofit.
Right. Yep.
And have them handle all the auditing and the tax accounting and stuff. But you have this division, and you're this division of their nonprofit, and you take and run with it this way. Because I think we need to think about, because extra funds, because of COVID, that we're hearing from a lot of companies, we have to stop spending now. There's no extra spending. So maybe we should be thinking about, if you're starting a new one, find out who's already doing it and join, but don't lose your passion.
Right.
I don't want to say, if someone has that dream, we're all dreamers, obviously, or we wouldn't be here. You can't put it back in the bottle once it's out.
Nope.
So, but maybe you can incorporate it so that you can spend more of your time. I was talking to another person I was mentoring the other day. I said, do you want to spend 25% of your money on operations, or would you like 100% of it to go to your programming?
Right.
So that's another thing to think about. I don't want to discourage people, but just have these conversations with other leaders and find out what it looks like. Your nonprofit may be making $10 million in 2 years. Who knows, if you've got the right ideas and stuff, but just talk to people, and hopefully having this conversation is getting people's, minds thinking a little bit. Right.
Definitely. Mansi, I think you were going to say something.
No, yes. All those sentiments, but
You agree with everything. You're all good. All right, fantastic. Sorry.
She sees it too. Like, because I'll send her messages like, all right, this is what we have to do. And she's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, this is what's happening in the background, and what we have to do with all this stuff. And so
in our partnership, I'm the one like, oh, what about this? And Mary's like, here's what it means. And I think when you talk about knowing your why or being that salesman, nobody tells you that. Nobody says that, hey, if you're passionate and you want to just serve your membership or you just want to like make something better, but then nobody says you have to be like, oh yeah, this is why I want to make it better. Like let me chat with you. But it's a very it can be. It's not a very well disclosed.
It's not.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that's because a lot of people are scared. Because they think there's competition, right? Is there competition for women's organizations that teach cybersecurity and privacy? Heck yeah.
Sure.
But it's okay. Let's partner. Let's work together. Let's help the bigger issue. You know what I'm saying? And there's plenty of tech organizations, organizations for this or that. You just got to have that passion, and you have to be willing to put the work in.
That's right. And there's enough people that need the services.
Exactly.
And you do it a little bit differently than this other group over here. There's some nuances to it too, which is totally okay. And, you stay in this little niche that you have, and they have their little niche over here. And that's okay because it's not a one size fits all. And there are plenty of people to serve in both of our, lanes that we're in. Certainly there's room for more than one organization helping cybercrime victims because there's 50 million of them a year.
There's a lot of them.
we can't get to all of them, right now. So do you think we're ever going to get past the point of there's a new female CEO in a Fortune 100 company and it's the biggest news because she's a woman and she's, what do you think about, are we going to get past that someday? Is it going to stop being news?
Maybe. I mean, if it's the first one for your organization, well, okay. You got to figure out, okay, why? But I think we will. But then it's going to be the next, oh, she's the first Black person, the first Black woman, or the first, the first trans or something, or whatever, right? It's going to continue down that path regardless, because we just like to see, when we see stuff that's different, we get excited about it. We celebrate it.
Yeah.
Because it's not the norm. It's not the traditional. And so I think we'll still have that whole, oh my God, she's the first. Yeah, it's still gonna
happen. Okay, because we're going to look at it as celebrations. Yeah, I like that. Mansi, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that I agree with Mary that there's always that's how just news works in general, right? But right now, if the attention is on female and female leadership, then why not ride that wave, right? So if your organization doesn't have it, like this is your third CEO that's female, right? Celebrate that. Let's celebrate it too. Be like, hey, yeah, you know what? We've had 3 female leaders. Like, okay, we have had 50 female leaders. Like, let's still have that same excitement for a celebration.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, and we need to keep celebrating each other and lifting each other up. And that's why I love working with you two ladies, and was so excited when I met you. And I heard Mary on a podcast, and I was going for a walk and I took a picture of the podcast and your name so that when I got home, I would go look you up. Like, I just want to work with her, like that energy. And we've got to sort of look for people with similar passions and energy, and, not be around mean, negative people, because it's not going to help you.
It brings you down. That negativity, it affects your work. It affects the community. It affects everybody.
Yeah.
It's not needed. Bad things happen. I was going to say something else, but that's okay. Let's look at the positive side of it, and let's keep it moving, right?
And what can we learn out of it? Yeah,
Mansi, learn.
What do you want to say, Mansi?
Yeah, but I think that's where the tribe helps, right? Because we are humans, and because this is not even, it's not our 9-to-5 job, right? So we have all these other responsibilities anyways that are triggering. So yeah, if sometimes I'm gonna be like, I can't believe this is how the world works, but that's important for having a tribe, right? That's why I have Mary or the other leaders in the front, or even a volunteer. And like sometimes they'll send us an email saying, I had my resume reviewed by so-and-so in your team for this event, and because of that, I landed this job. So it's wins, and like this, and I'm goosebumps also. It is. So it's okay to be. I think it doesn't always have to be positive, because I know that as a person, I'm not 100% positive all the time. Sometimes I'm like, it sucks. But then that's important for having a tribe and having those people around the get-go. And that makes the world of a difference.
Well, I don't know where the time went. That was probably the fastest LinkedIn
Jeez
Live I've
Louise.
had. I know. We could talk for hours, but I am honored to be a part of your tribe. And thank you for opening up your hearts and your time and giving so much to create these tribes around the country to support people in our field. It's so needed. And I just am so excited to count you among my tribe and my friends and my coworkers and
Yes.
and colleagues. Let's just keep doing great things together and inspiring more people. And thank you for taking time to be with me today.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I love talking. Mansi's great. She's awesome. So I like having her on, and I like talking with her. So
Great. Thank you, ladies. Take care.
thank you. Bye.